owner and practitioner of my firm, Badu Tax Services, and my firm specializes in tax preparation, tax planning, and tax representation for individuals and businesses. One of my passions in life is to teach personal finance and to help people become financially literate. So that's something that I really love to do. So today we're going to talk about a topic that's extremely important. It's absolutely necessary for us to talk in depth about this topic, simply because not enough people are doing it. But today we're going to talk about retirement and basically how to save for retirement, why it's important to save for retirement, and yeah, just basically laying out some of the different strategies, give you some benchmarks, just things along that line. And so to introduce, without question, it's extremely important to save for retirement. I mean, it goes without question, really. And the majority of the U.S. population basically isn't financially prepared for retirement. And so there's a lot of different statistics out there that prove that people simply aren't saving for retirement for whatever reason. I believe one of the reasons why is that people feel that, I don't know, that their money is going to get lost, or I don't know what it is, but saving for retirement is extremely important because you're basically putting money away today for a better future tomorrow. You know, there's a lot of people, a lot of older people working at Walmart, working at Target, those places, not because they want to, but actually because they have to. I would say at least the majority of people, and I've spoken to some of these people before, and they tell me their stories. But basically, people just aren't saving enough for retirement. And Social Security benefits are decreasing. I mean, or over time, they're going to decrease. And soon, probably by the time I'm ready to retire, Social Security won't even be around. So that's something very important to keep in mind, is that we can't just rely on Social Security. Even though we're paying the tax, we still can't just rely on that because it might not be around for too long. As a matter of fact, a recent report came out saying that Social Security will be depleted very soon, actually. Not fully depleted, but over time it's going to be significantly depleted. And then another thing is we can't really rely on pensions anymore. I don't know about you, but the state of Illinois simply can't pay up their pensions. And so we really can't rely on pensions too much, just because they're a bit prehistoric right now. And so what we really have to do is find the most strategic and advantageous ways to save for retirement outside of traditional, just relying on Social Security, pensions, those type of things. So really, and the big point today that I would like to make is that it's never too early to start saving for retirement. Whether you're a kid, whether you are a college student, whether you're married and you have kids, whether you're getting ready to retire, it's never really too early to start saving for retirement. And it's definitely too late to save for retirement. So you want to be more on the too early side. Another reason why you might want to save for retirement is because of a beautiful credit out there known as the Retirement Savers Credit. And so basically this credit is essentially the IRS paying you basically to contribute to your own retirement account. And so the way this credit works is that the IRS will literally write you a check or give you a credit up to basically $1,000, saying that thank you for contributing to your retirement account. Here's your money, basically. And this is a very nice account. I personally qualified for this credit last year, or actually 2 years ago. I qualified for this credit because I was saving for retirement, and I still am. So it's a very nice credit to have. I mean, it's mainly more so for low to mid income earners. The high income earner probably won't qualify for this credit, but if if you're looking for a way, if you're looking for an incentive to start saving for retirement or to continuously save for retirement, the Savers Credit allows you to do that. And so, when to start saving? As stated before, it's never too early to start saving. So save as soon as you can. Start pitching in. Whether you start off at $5, $10 a month, $15, $100 this month. Just the sooner you can start, the sooner you develop the mindset of an investor, the sooner you develop the mindset of a wealth builder, the better, because habits stick. They say it only takes 21 days to develop a habit. And so start saving for retirement for 21 days, and I guarantee you, you'll be in a much better position. You'll be in a much better position by saving than to not to save. And then, so me personally, I started saving at the age of 23. And normally what I recommend is starting to save as early as possible. Even, I would say at the age of 18 is probably the best time to actually start saving for retirement. Your freshman year in college is the best time to start saving for retirement. And so I'm already 5 years behind, so I have a lot of catching up to do personally. And then what you want to do is you want to increase your savings as you get older. And so let's say you've been contributing $5,000 to your retirement account every year. I would say the older you get, the more you should build on to that retirement savings. The reason why is because of things like inflation. Your income is going to go up probably. The average person, their income goes up as they're approaching retirement. And so you should definitely boost your retirement savings as time goes on. And a good benchmark to use is 10%. So 10% of your income, very minimum, 10% of your income should be put towards retirement every year. And that's gross income and not just net income. So that's something very, very important to keep in mind, is that you always want to save for retirement. I personally save 20% towards retirement every year. So I'm actually doubling the minimum, because I know that it's going to put me in a better position than most of the statistics out there. And so literally there's you can read it. It's some very wild statistics out there. For example, one statistic is that over 90% of the people that are currently retired weren't financially prepared to retire. And so that's a very scary statistic. So knowing these and learning from people's mistakes, of course I have to save for retirement. I mean, I do not want to be a 75-year-old working at Walmart, because I just don't want to do that. So that's one thing. And then another thing is the IRS is so friendly to people that they allow you, if you're over the age or age 50 and over, you're allowed to make catch-up contributions. And so they understand that a lot of people aren't saving for retirement. You know, they've already came up with this credit saying that we're going to actually pay you to save for retirement, but people aren't paying attention clearly. So they said that if you're age 50 or older, we're going to allow you to contribute more to your retirement account. So we're going to give you catch-up contributions. And I'll talk a little bit more about that as I'm going through the different accounts. But that's something to keep in mind. Okay. So moving on into the meat of the presentation, which is saving strategies, actually. Now, how we talked about why it's important, when you should start saving, and some of the benefits out there, but how do we actually save for retirement? What are some strategies? And so the first way is to use an individual retirement account, an IRA. It is my personal favorite retirement account out there because it is absolutely beautiful. And the way this works is that it's basically the new version of the 401k. And so really the IRS, or I guess people like 401ks, but they felt like there needed to be more ways for people to save. For example, what if somebody doesn't have a job and doesn't have access to a traditional 401k? Well, what do? And so this IRA is another account. It's simply another retirement account, and it has so many benefits. And here we go. And so it's best suited for anyone, really. Anyone. I mean, whether you're a kid, whether you're 18, 23, 65. Well, actually, there's a cap. I believe there's a cap on when you can actually contribute, or when you have to basically stop contributing. But really, it's best suited for anyone. And so it's extremely flexible, and it can be invested however. And so with a 401k, really, your options are pretty limited. And I'll talk more about this later. But with a 401k, you're basically pretty much locked into mutual funds. You're sort of there's a lot of things, and that's the reason why they created IRAs is because of the flexibility. And so this IRA account allows you the flexibility of your investments. You can put it into stocks. You can put it into bonds. You can put it into mutual funds if you want it. ETFs, REITs, MLPs, all the different investment accounts, real estate, anything that you can think of, this IRA can be invested. And so the money that's actually in the IRA account, and so when you pitch in money to your account, you can actually invest this money into something. And that's really one of the purposes of a retirement account, is for it to grow. You can start a retirement account and just let it sit there, just like a savings account, but it would probably suit you better due to inflation and everything of the like to keep this money growing. I'll give you a personal testimonial. My retirement account actually grew by 20% last year. That's because I invested in ETFs, S&P 500 ETFs. And as we know, the stock market did extremely well last year. It started off really bad, but it ended off really well. We literally went from the worst time in stock market history, or the worst start to the stock market in history, basically to the best finish that we've ever had in history. And so we started all the way from the bottom and we went all the way to the top. And of course, the stock market just hit a record high as of yesterday. The Dow Jones hitting 20,000 points for the very first time in history. So we're making history already. So it only makes sense to actually benefit from this history. It only makes sense to actually take advantage of this stuff. Because if you sit and wait and just let money just sit idly, or if we're just spending hazardously, we're not doing the best. We're not doing the best for our money, basically. But continuing with the IRA, you have there's a lot of different IRAs out there, but the main two types are traditional and Roth. So with a traditional IRA, it's pre-tax contributions. It's tax-deferred growth of earnings. So that's a very important word, deferred. I'll explain in a few minutes. And then you also have taxable withdrawals. So basically, you put money in pre-tax out of your paycheck, or you're basically contributing to get a tax benefit up front. And then your earnings grow tax-deferred. Deferred just means that you're throwing it to a future period. So you're not paying taxes on it now. So remember, your account grows by you investing in stocks, bonds, mutual funds. That money is growing. And typically, if you had a regular brokerage account, you would be paying taxes on this money. Or once you actually realize that gain, you actually pay taxes on it. Well, when you realize a gain in a retirement account, you don't pay taxes on it right now. And then, of course, with a traditional, when you take the money out, you basically get taxed. But there's a loophole with this. And one of the loopholes is to simply create a trust fund and pass the money to your kids or something, and the money would never be taxed, basically. And then you have a Roth IRA. This is my personal favorite retirement account. Out of all the retirement accounts that I'm going to mention today, a Roth IRA is my absolute favorite. And here's how a Roth works. So you have after-tax contributions. All this means is that you're not getting a benefit up front. So after-tax contributions, meaning you're using after-tax dollars, meaning you're basically paying taxes on it now, and then tax-free growth of earnings. So not tax deferred anymore, tax free. Meaning tax free means that you don't ever pay taxes on it. And then Roth is non-taxable withdrawals. And so all that money that's been accumulating so beautifully in the account, none of it is ever taxed. And so traditional is really best suited for your high income earners. And then I remember I had a radio show, it was about a few weeks ago. I was talking about how employers basically set you up for a traditional 401k starting out. And so the reason why you want to switch to a Roth is because your income tax bracket is probably not going to be as high as possible. It's probably going to start off pretty low. So you want to start off with a Roth because a Roth is best suited for the low to mid income earner. And the reason why is because your tax rate, so since you don't pay taxes on a Roth when you retire, chances are that when you start working, your income is going to be lower than when you, let's say you're getting close to retire. So basically what you want to do is you want to lock in that low tax rate, pay that tax on it now at the lower rate, so that when it comes time for retirement, you don't even have to worry about it. And I always like to bring up the scary statistic, but tax rates were once 94% back in 1944. That's the highest tax bracket. And so just imagine those people that were sitting on traditional accounts back then and needed money. They had to pay 94% on their money, which is insane. The Roth people were sitting on the beach somewhere just relaxing because they didn't have to worry about taxes. But those are just some of the differences. And then the nice thing with the Roth is that you can actually withdraw principal at any time. And so principal is never taxed because you never got a benefit from it in the first place. And so whatever you need to do, I don't ever recommend early withdrawals of your retirement account, but if you really need money, you can pull from your Roth tax-free, penalty-free, and that's how it goes. And then also, and let's say your account has just been really growing. Now you're trying to withdraw from earnings now. Now your principal is there, but you've also been making some money on this. And so if you want to take out earnings and avoid a 10% penalty, you can take out the money early for emergencies, significant medical expenses, buying your first home up to $10,000, or paying for school. So this account is really nice. I mean, I absolutely love IRAs. They're pretty beautiful. And then the maximum, this account is so beautiful to the point that the IRS has had to limit people. And so the maximum contribution is $5,500 across all of your IRA accounts combined each year, with $1,000 catch-up contributions for those 50 or older. And then, so if you want to avoid all this penalty, all these taxes, if you want to avoid any sort of penalty, just start withdrawing from your IRA at the age of 59 and a half. That's the official retirement age to avoid any penalties. And then try to be diversified. Don't just throw all your eggs in one basket. Don't just do all Roth and no traditional. Try to have a good mix. Based on your income level, you might want to have a certain level higher. If you're a high income earner, you want to have more traditional than Roth. If you're a low income earner, you want to have more Roth than traditional. And then the nice thing is you have until April 18th of this year. If, let's say, you want to go back in time into 2016 and for contributions to count towards 2016 so you can get the tax benefit, you have until April 18th to literally dump up to $5,500 into a retirement account, which is actually something I'm going to do. So I haven't actually contributed to my IRA yet for 2016. And so by April 18th of this year, I'm going to contribute at least $5,500 for it to count towards last year. And then you have the old school 401k. And this is what everybody should know what a 401k is, but I'll give some brief details. And so it's the old school way of saving for retirement. It's usually set up by an employer. It's a great option, really, especially starting out. It's definitely a great option. There's one really beautiful part about a 401k that's better than an IRA, one of few. But unfortunately, with a 401k, it lacks flexibility. With investments, with the way it just lacks a lot of structure. Or it, for one, you're typically only limited to mutual funds. I'm personally not a favorite. I'm not a fan of mutual funds. I like more ETFs better, just because of the flexibility. I love flexibility. That's one of the things that I value in life, is the ability to be flexible. But basically, with a 401k, you're typically limited to mutual funds. It's pretty traditional, pretty old school. And then you still have traditional versus Roth. Most companies, or some companies, they should have traditional versus Roth. And then with these, unfortunately, the IRS is not so friendly when it comes to early withdrawals. And so with traditional versus Roth, you could take out money early for stuff. But with it, or traditional IRA versus Roth IRA, but with traditional 401k versus Roth 401k, kind of have to be careful and to not withdraw early, because you will get significantly penalized. And so what you want to do is, instead of withdrawing, just straight up withdrawing it, just borrow from it. So you're allowed to borrow up to a certain amount each year, and you can basically pay yourself back on the interest that you're paying. And so that's a nice thing. That's what a lot of business owners do when they're starting their business. Or I guess the business owners that have advisors and people that they work with, is that they borrow from the 401k. Instead of just taking the money out, you just borrow from it, and you pay yourself back the interest that you're paying. Very smart way to do your early withdrawals. And then it's limited to $18,000 a year for single individual. This amount probably would never change. And then it's $36,000 for married couples. Oh yeah, here's the secret. There's 1,400 more financial benefits for traditional married couples than non-traditional married couples. So if you're not married yet, and this advice applies to myself, I would advise that you do so as soon as you can. And then you have a 403b, which is very similar to 401k, no major differences other than 403b is normally started by governmental agencies, schools, anything that's affiliated with the government. And then I would say, here's a nice strategy. Contribute up to the maximum that your employer will match you. So here's the benefit. Here's why a 401k would be better than an IRA, is that your employer typically matches you up to a certain percentage. Let's say they match you 50%. They match you 50% up to 6% of your contributions. So basically, they're throwing extra money into your account every month, or every time you contribute, the company's also going to contribute. And so for you not to contribute up to the maximum is literally you opening up a garbage can and just throwing money in it. So the smartest thing, unless some companies have a vesting requirement. And so some companies might say, hey, you have to stay with us for 5 years in order for us to formally give you this money. Because your money can accrue in the account, or for you to actually gain possession of it, or for it to actually be fully under your name, you might have a vesting period. And so if you don't plan to stay the vesting period, then this match doesn't really matter. But if you do, if you like your company so much and you plan to stay there long term, definitely contribute up to the maximum allowed for the match. And then start contributing as soon as that plan starts. Normally it takes about 3 months for you to get fully enrolled in a 401k account. Day one enrollment period, just sign up. You can always change your contributions at any given time. And then for the self-employed, there's way more options for self-employed people to save for retirement than it is for non-self-employed. You have a bunch of different accounts that I'm actually going to do a special segment for the self-employed. And so this same segment, but for the self-employed individuals. You just have a bunch of different accounts. You have solo 401k, the simple IRA, SCP plan. You have so many different accounts out there, and you can contribute way more than a traditional employee. And then you have one of my other personal favorites, a health savings account. So really briefly, health savings account is, you know how IRA has traditional and Roth. So this is like the catch-all, traditional and Roth. And the reason why this is because there's triple tax benefits. And so you have pre-tax contributions, meaning your money can go out your paycheck just like it would with a 401k. Tax-free accumulation of earnings, not tax-deferred, tax-free. So any money, so this health savings account can actually be invested into stocks, bonds, mutual funds, just like an IRA, just like a 401k, and then the money grows in the account tax-free. And then non-taxable withdrawals. And so guess what? You have a triple tax benefit, which a 401k can't do, an IRA cannot do. No other account basically can do this other than a health savings account. And the reason why people get hesitant with this is they think it's only for medical expenses. And that's actually a myth. We'll get into that in just a few seconds. But you can use it for medical expenses now or later. So if you want to use it now, do that. What some people, or the smart person, would do is to leave this money in the account, leave it until retirement, let it keep growing tax-free, and then when it comes time to retire, go ahead and use it for your medical expenses. And then the IRS requires you to have a high deductible medical plan, which for simplicity's sake, it's a medical plan with a deductible of at least $1,300 for single and $2,600 for married. And then you can contribute up to $3,400 for single, which is what I do every year. I max out my HSA contributions each and every year. And then if you have a family, which I hope to have I hope to have in the future soon, you can contribute up to $6,750. And then also you have until April 18th, 2017 to contribute for it to count towards 2016. And these amounts that I gave you were for 2017 tax year. Great way to save for retirement. A lot of advisors don't really mention this too much, but it is an excellent way to save for retirement. And then medical expenses are pretty high in retirement. I mean, think about what the average person spends in retirement on just medical expenses. That can really eat into your budget. So why not have an account that's only for medical expenses? But let's say you don't want to use it for medical expenses. So if you don't use it for medical expenses and you're over the age or at the age of 59 and a half, you can actually, basically, you can use it for non-medical expenses. And what happens is now this account gets treated as a traditional 401k/IRA. And so you still have, you've already made your pre-tax contributions. You've already had tax-free, or now it's tax-deferred accumulation of earnings. And now you just have to pay taxes on the withdrawals or the distributions that you have. And so you can think of it as another 401k or IRA. But if you use it for medical expenses, it's basically a better version of a 401k or IRA. And then you have permanent life insurance. Believe it or not, this is another way to save for retirement. I'll have a special segment just for life insurance. But the different types of permanent life insurance out there, you have traditional whole life insurance, universal life insurance, variable life insurance, and variable universal life insurance. I'll talk about the differences between these four at a later time. But the nice thing with permanent life insurance is that the premiums that you pay, they actually get invested into an investment account. And so the account accumulates cash value or cash surrender value over time. And then you can also borrow against the policy, just like a 401k. You can borrow against it and basically pay yourself that interest. Or if you want, let's say you're in retirement, you really need some money, you can just surrender the policy, call it a day, and take all your cash value, all the money that's been accumulating, and just cancel the policy basically after that. It's also a great way to fund a child's education. And here's probably the biggest benefit is that any money that you take up to the premiums that you've paid, really, it's tax-free. So any sort of withdrawals that you make up to a certain amount is 100% tax-free. And whenever you hear the words tax-free, that's the best type of account to have. A wise man was telling me there's nothing like tax-free money. And so a great way, if you want to start saving for retirement, this is one of the ways, is to use a cash value life insurance policy. And so life insurance is not just about, you dying or living anymore. It's about wealth accumulation. It's about growth. And then it's best to be diversified. I have all these accounts that I mentioned to you. I probably have one of each, even different permanent life insurance policies. But to really conclude is that when saving for retirement, what you want to do is you want to do something now that's going to benefit your future self. Do something now that your future self is going to thank you for. Because clearly a lot of people's future selves aren't thanking them that much. And then if you think about it, if you don't save for retirement and these big bills come up and those type of things, you're going to be living in poverty. And so I guarantee you that some homeless people out there, maybe this is the reason why they're homeless, is because they weren't saving for retirement. They worked very hard. They decided to retire. But when it comes time to retire, you don't have any money to retire. So it's like, how can you retire? You just go back to work, and then the cycle keeps repeating itself. And so you really have to start saving now. Do something now that's going to benefit your future self. And then I stated before, the reason why a lot of older people work at Walmart is not because they want to, but because they have to. And that's really it as far as my presentation today. Thank you guys for tuning in. Next week we're going to talk about more about life insurance and really give you all the details behind the different types of policies out there. It's not just about life and death. It's also about wealth accumulation. Some people have their own preferences. Some people just like term, and some people like permanent. And so we'll lay out some of the details, do a quick debate, and then really that's what we're going to talk about next week. So thank you guys for tuning in once again. My name is Jeff Badu, licensed CPA in Illinois, and I look forward to continuously giving you guys knowledge on this radio station.
Thank you very much, Abrantia Jeff. Why are there retirement plan now? They are Ghana force the baby whom what to do. Nyame adoma. Next week you better was be home. Nah, what the number not to drive my dear. Said the bear. I need to say T4 no more pen number no. That they can reach out to you.
Yeah, my number in there is 773-679-7198. Once again, it's 773-679-7198. You can call me at any time and I will pick up.